Thanks for joining us on a brand new season of Industry Leaders. It's here that we celebrate the success of big brands, their business leaders, and how they came to be. They'll tell their story, and we'll find out who they really are. On this episode, we'll meet Instyle Solar CEO and founder Carl Brown. From humble beginnings, he now heads up Queensland's leading solar supplier. Industry Leaders, brought to you by Annex Media.
I'm 39 years of age, married with two boys, 16 and 20. I grew up in southwest Sydney, typical blue-collar family. Have 5 brothers and a sister. A day in the life of what I do. Wake up in the morning, stumble to my coffee machine. Usually get a really strong coffee at about 6:30. Spend a bit of time with my dogs and go over my calendar for the day and try and work out how I'm going to navigate it and get the best use of my time. I started out in my first full-time job as an apprentice mechanic and realised that wasn't for me, but then went into our family business, which my dad had a panel beating shop, so smash repairs, and I started there as an apprentice panel beater and worked there for a number of years. Basically, from there I found sales. So one day I was looking at a newspaper, had no experience necessary, earned $900 a week, and back then even a tradesman panel beater only earned around $400 a week. So I went and gave that a crack and realised I was quite good at it, and it all went from there. So for the next 20 years or so, I've pretty well been running and managing sales teams. Most of my family lives around Campbelltown, Liverpool sort of areas, and you sort of learn how to deal with people. Whether that comes from places of, people trying to do the wrong thing by you, start to learn how people work and how they think, and I think I learned to read body language and understand tonality and things like at a really young age, which I didn't realise were sales skills. When I started selling, I had the knack of being able to talk to somebody and tell what they were thinking before they answered me, and I could work out where I was going with my questioning and what I needed to ask next before I think they'd even worked out what I was saying to them. And I think a lot of that came down to just being able to read people, and read people quite well. I've been in sales a very long time. My previous role was in the mining industry, but I'd been looking at growth markets and looking at different areas that I wanted to be in. For a very long time, I'd been in telecommunications, IT, and then mining. And all I could keep seeing was panels popping up on people's roofs. You drive around, you see more of it. So when I got out of the mining game, where I did take a redundancy from a recruitment role, I had a good look at that industry, and that was the industry that basically drew me. I could see that it was going to have massive growth. It just made sense to have a look at it. So I took a commission-only sales role with another solar company, which was pretty foreign to take when you're in a position like I am with 2 kids and a wife. But I knew I'd found the right industry, and I knew I could back myself, and that's pretty well where it started from. In that training for the company, I met Jonah, who's obviously my business partner.
After about being there for a month or 2, we started to work together. Really had a lot of similar ideologies on how a business should be run, and obviously how to take customers through a great sales process for a great experience.
We set out working for this company for a fair while, set up their Brisbane operations for them, and the company just took a different turn. It went into a way where they set up some new structures around the way sales was going to work, and I didn't actually agree with them at the time, so Instyle formed. We had a bit of a chat prior to Christmas in 2013, but I kicked off in February 7th, 2014.
Well, we spent a lot of time on the golf course. First 6 months, I think most of our meetings were while we're having a hit of golf, so those were the good old days when we actually golfed. Haven't really golfed much since then. lot of strategy, like the kind of early memories I have is just how much we immersed ourselves in the business. So, it was not only just working a full day, but then also, having strategy calls from, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. at night almost every single night for the first 6 months. Then we felt like we really started to get a good business model down. We always had a focus of training and developing and making sure that we were doing things correctly.
When we first started the business, I had a vision of where we wanted the business to be, and I needed the initial people that come on board to believe in that, and that's your Jonas and other people that are in the business, even my wife to an extent. I had to sell where I thought Instyle could be in every 12 months and get there. If we didn't ever hit these goals at the start, and if they didn't believe in the visions, we wouldn't keep having more goals to hit.
The early days were just that full immersion of, hey, what do we need to do for this to work, and how do we take the next step in the business?
First ever client that we signed up, I can tell you what they bought. I sold it.
Still ahead on Industry Leaders, we'll unveil what the first ever client of the award-winning Instyle Solar bought during the business's setup phase. Today, they provide solar solutions to homes and businesses throughout Australia.
First ever client that we signed up, I can tell you what they bought. I sold it. It was actually sold over the phone, which was really weird because we weren't trying to sell solar systems over the phone at that time. But they live at Northlakes on a corner. I won't say their name, but they bought a Fronius 4 kilowatt inverter and 14 Q-cells panels. Interestingly enough, if you walk outside into our warehouse out here now, you'll see Fronius inverters everywhere and Q-cells panels everywhere. The experience of the first ever client was obviously exhilarating because at that point we weren't going long, we'd only been going a few weeks, but that was the setup phase of the business. So, I built the first website, I set up all the tech, I set up all the pitch folders, I'd done everything to start the business, and then to finally get a sale, I was like, all right, well that paid for one of them, so it was an awesome feeling.
I'm actually a chef by trade, so I've been a chef most of my life, and when I first came over to Australia from Canada, I took an amazing chef job for about 2 months, kind of had a bit of a mental reassessment as to whether I wanted to be a chef for the rest of my life, and just loved the idea of solar, and that's how I got into the industry. My journey was definitely a pretty interesting one. So it's very hard to stay in Australia sometimes with immigration and stuff like that. Pretty well had to do everything possible to stay here. It was quite difficult throughout different processes of that. But I always saw the vision of what we could do in our business, and that was really had to make that choice a few times to obviously stay and take part of this monster company that we built. Every day is different. Solar is definitely not a boring thing. It's a very complex business with many moving parts, not just with the people, but how the systems get installed.
On the installation side of the business, we obviously have to hire for skills because we need them to have the accreditation. So they've got to be electricians, they've got to have their Clean Energy Council accreditations and things like that. On the sales side, attitude, 100% attitude. I don't want people with solar experience. I'd rather people come in and with even limited sales experience and train them ourselves. Most of our top performing sales staff have started in our call centre upstairs in much more junior type position. Try to keep the team small too. I don't like having overly large teams. I think it makes it very difficult to manage and understand where they're going, and for each person to feel like they're a part of it. The bigger the team gets, the smaller everyone's voice becomes. So I guess they're probably the main things I try to do with the team.
Since about 2013, so I started doing some things with them then, doing some lead generation and all that sort of stuff, which was really, really fun. It was a great environment. It was a very different environment then as well, like we were working out of what we would call a shed in comparison to this sort of things. It was fantastic working for them.
I started with Install in about 2015. And then from there I've obviously moved on from working in the call centre, then moving into the warehouse and doing a few things in the warehouse and managing the warehouse for him.
I started here as a sales rep, so on the road, out selling day to day, meeting with customers, and then worked my way through, started selling commercial systems and then moved into the office. What we like the most about sales is it is pretty fulfilling, and that you're actually able to help, especially in our situation, customers genuinely be able to save money on their electricity bills by installing something as simple as solar.
I think the biggest thing that separates Instyle Solar from everyone else is we don't really focus on the technical side of things with the consumer. When we go into someone's home, which is technically where most solar systems are sold, we start talking about brands, you start talking about inverters, you start talking about technical specs. They forget it the second you leave. You know, like you want to talk to someone about how many bus bars a panel has, or the temperature coefficient of a panel, or any inverter specs. They genuinely forget it. So what we tend to focus on is the first thing we do is show people how to read their electricity bill. You know, most people genuinely just pay the thing. They've got no idea how it's calculated. And once we do that, we're able to show them how the savings genuinely work. It's not a guess game. It's not, you know, it's essentially a financial simulation model which shows them what they're going to have. And that's where we focus our time. That's what makes us different. That's where the customer understands. So we differentiate by educating.
Coming up on Industry Leaders, a true romance that blossomed online. These days, the business is a family affair, with Instyle Solar CEO and founder Carl Brown's eldest son, brothers, stepfather and wife, all on the payroll.
So how we met was online. So before this was very popular like it is today. So it was a bit sort of more strange way of meeting someone.
Don't usually tell people that. We usually go, what was that? And move on to the next question. But
Had the same circle of friends. We went to neighbouring schools.
So it wasn't like it was some weird long distance thing or anything like that. We had the same circles of friends, and it was kind of weird that we hadn't spent more time together, if that makes sense. So
It was all very bizarre. So yeah, we clicked straight away, that's for sure. And that was in 2002, so 17 years ago. So Carl and I have two sons. One is 16 and he's still in high school at the moment, and Jaden, our 20-year-old, he works in the company with us.
I've been working here pretty much since I graduated school, so about 3 or 4 years, and my main role here is customer service manager, so I take care of all the customers from the point that they sign up for a solar system. I'll walk them through the entire installation process and make sure that they're happy with the service that they've received so far, and if they have any technical inquiries, I'm always around to help them with those as well.
He started out working through school doing McDonald's, so he was at McDonald's for a couple of years, and then he sort of liked the idea of working with his parents, which is unusual.
I didn't really see myself entering the family business until I kind of got to the end of my schooling years. I didn't really know what I wanted to do until I almost graduated year 12, and then I decided that I really did want to work in the family business, and it seemed like a really good idea for me.
After Mel, absolutely. We're both chatterboxes, I think. It's hard to shut him up. Sometimes I look at him and I go, oh, you're just too much like me. But we are very close, mother and son, so I had him fairly young, so we're good mates as well. I'm the administration manager, so I run a team of a few people now. It started off with just me, so I did all of the roles all of the little jobs that was required to, get the installation happening. So all the paperwork side of things, the payment side of things, and that's now expanded to a much bigger team that I manage.
In the business at the moment, I've got 3 of my brothers work in the business. My stepfather works in the business, my wife and my eldest son. So one of the hardest things we do struggle with as a family is the fact that we come home at somewhere between 5 and 7 p.m. is usually when I'm home, and the logical next thing is how was your day? Well, that just means you're talking about the business again. It's hard, and I think the biggest thing with it is because we're all in it, we've just got to deal with it, but it's tough. It's the hardest part of probably my biggest challenge is learning how to switch off.
My greatest strength, it's a hard one. I'm a very nurturing person. I care a lot about people, their well-being, and I'll do whatever I can to make sure somebody's okay.
From a business perspective, being able to analyse a situation. That's probably my greatest strength from a business perspective. Am I always right? No, I'm not. But I don't like doing the same thing. From a personal level, everything's about family for me. If I'm not at work, I'm with my family. Me and my wife spend a lot of time together. Some men would find that annoying. But myself and my wife, we're pretty well always together, whether it's work or outside of work. One of my favourite hobbies I like driving. So I usually jump in my car and go for a drive. And that's how I tend to, wind myself down and get myself ready for things.
Carl loves to drive his car, so I've joined him on a couple of occasions where we've gone on track days and things like that, so that's been a lot of fun. Anything to do with going away or travelling, we love to do that together, and just on the weekends we will just simply get up, let the boys sleep in and go and grab a coffee and a bite to eat together. That's our release, that's our relax.
My grandfather, he was a big part of my life growing up. Really stern guy, old Scottish guy. He ran an excavation business, so you can understand the type of guy he was. He was massively fair. But the main thing with him is when you're growing up in places like Southwest Sydney, everyone keeps telling you can't do things, or you're never going to get there, or you're not going to be able to do it. He had an unwavering belief that I could do whatever I wanted to do. When people say you can set your mind to it, you can do anything, that's not really true. I'd love to be #1 golfer in the world, but I don't have the talent, But he was able to literally, I guess, provide me with the confidence of things that I was good at, I could get better at and move forward. And he died when I was 18, but I'd still say that the little things that I remember from him growing up are probably the biggest things that have probably shaped me personally. Darkest point?
Still to come on Industry Leaders, Instyle Solar CEO and founder Carl Brown reveals how his all-or-nothing philosophy almost killed him after his grandfather's death. Moving to Brisbane was a game changer for this young entrepreneur.
Look, I was a terrible late teenager. That was probably just after my grandfather died. It was probably the worst parts of my life the next 2 years. I went off the rails, had a reasonable large drug habit, for a while there. I was pretty well going to be either dead or in jail. That's essentially where I was going to end up if I didn't decide to change my life. Had a huge week of partying over a New Year period and just basically woke up one day and said to myself, I'm literally going to die. If I don't decide to change this, I'm literally going to die. And one of the biggest things that was, stopped me from doing that was just the people I hung around. And there was nothing wrong with these people. There was nothing wrong with them. My biggest problem I've always had is I can't do things in small doses. I'm a either all in or all out type guy. I had to make a decision on if I wanted to be around or not. I literally, with the help of my mum, booked myself into a rehab facility. Went there for a little bit, came out. looked at it and gone, if I stay here, I'm just gonna end up in the same space. So I was working for Optus at the time. I was one of their sales managers, and I transferred up to Brisbane. If I was only a little bit under, or 80% of the person back then, would I still be there? Would I still be in them circles? Would I still be doing the same things? You don't know. So, yeah, I think that shaped me a lot. I think that gave me a lot of mental toughness as well. I think that's where a lot of my mental toughness came from, because to be able to walk away from, I guess, your childhood friends, and I didn't have contact with them for 10 years, and I think it's a long time.
Working with Carl it's been an amazing journey. He's probably the most competitive person I've ever met, other than probably myself. So it's really great to have a leader who will push you to always get the best and do the best.
Instyle Solar's got that really family vibe sort of thing, so you're always feeling comfortable, everyone's friends with each other, making sure that the environment's really safe.
With Instyle Solar, I think what makes us very different is that we are actually able to stand behind our installations. So not only from our products, but the actual physical installation. With all our guys being fully accredited and licensed, we do a very good quality install, which does make a big difference.
We're in a very unique business where we've had an amazing ability to develop staff and have staff take part in this crazy journey over a long period of time. If you look at some of our longest withheld staff, it's they're going on 3 years in the business. What's amazing about that is it generally shows that you have a lot of people who actually care about what they're doing and have that passion to obviously deliver excellence.
Top line tips for first line solar customers. The first thing you need to do is understand how your electricity is billed to you. If you don't understand that, you're never going to understand solar. And that's the first thing that we literally sit down and run them through. Next thing is the tree that's there is going to cause a problem if you've got shade. So many people think the tree's not going to be an issue and they're just going to leave their trees in that line around, that are going to be in front of their roof. It is going to affect. The third main thing that they need to understand is if you use more power after we put the system in or put a system in, it's not going to help you. So monitoring is really important. A lot of customers don't want to spend extra money to have a well-monitored solar system. But by having that, it's actually going to teach you how to use your power, which is really important to get the most out of it and to be able to get the savings that you want. You actually genuinely have an idea, have a plan, and believe it's something you can execute on. Don't listen to everybody. Don't listen to your parents telling you to go and get a job somewhere else. Don't listen to everyone that thinks that it's not doable. Even when I started this business, and it was, as I said, it was 5 years ago, everyone still told me not to do it. I think Australians like to pull people back a little bit. Not everybody. Everyone wants someone to be successful, but as long as they're not more successful than them. Yeah, if you've got a plan and execute it, you're young, you know what I mean? Have a crack. What are you going to do? Go and work somewhere and be a slave to people for the rest of your life. If you obviously genuinely believe that you've got something, do it. One of the things that's been great in our business, we've never had a loan. You know what I mean? This whole business has been bootstrapped from day dot. There's never been a loan for growth that's ever been in the business. And we've gone from, I had $2.5 grand in my bank when I started the business 5 years ago, and last year we turned over 36 million. When you look at that with no loans and everything like that, that's probably the biggest achievement we've had. But being number one in Queensland for a long period of time now, being able to retain that while everyone's having a crack trying to beat us. And one of the interesting facts that I'm relatively proud of as well is that when you look at the number 2 business in Queensland, the number 3 and the number 4, they're all ex-employees of mine. So they've obviously come into the business and learned what we do, and they've gone out and been able to do it themselves. So sometimes that's good, sometimes that's frustrating, because you think, what if we'd harnessed them differently? But at the end of the day, I'm still beating them. So obviously doing something right.